You are listening to the global network of podcasters dedicated to the pharmacy profession. Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Welcome to SureCast, the podcast where we explore the trends and tools that help pharmacies save more, work smarter, and stay compliant. In this episode, we're diving into the 2025 Smarter Purchasing Report, a look at the strategies and data shaping more efficient and cost-effective pharmacy purchasing. Joining us are Josh Miller, Director of Pharmacy at HAC Pharmacies, and Calvin Hunsicker, Founder and Chief Product Officer at SureCost, who break down what the report means for pharmacies, share real-world examples, and offer actionable insights you can apply today.
Hey, I'd like to welcome you to the Pharmacy Podcast Network's review of the 2025 Smarter Purchasing Report brought to us by SureCost. I have a quick story about SureCost. So when I began my pharmacy career a long time ago, I'm starting to feel old. This was in 2004. The first integration that we did with an analytics organization was SureCost. And I forget what year it was. I want to say it had to be probably 2008-ish or something, 2009-ish, maybe 10. I'm not sure. I'm losing track. But I was so impressed with the extraction of data in a report that made things easy to understand, but more importantly, actionable. So therefore, there are pharmacists out there, there are pharmacy operators out there who did not go to school for engineering or did not go to school for programming or laying out data in a specific way. SureCost empowered those operations. And in this time, this was long-term care pharmacy. But SureCost has grown out of just the long-term care space, and they're touching specialty and community and the fusion of what's necessary to actually see a roadmap, a blueprint of where we're going into the future, and how sensitive each month after month to quarter to year is in order to guide us to profitability and thriving as pharmacies that are out there serving our populations. And this is important. So I'm excited. I'm hyper today. If you can't tell already, I have two special guests. Calvin Hunsicker, Chief Product Officer and founder of SureCost, is here with us. Calvin, I don't know if you remember little Todd Eury out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, way back in the day.
Oh yeah, no, I do, and I like you. I think I'm a bit older. I literally grew up in pharmacy and have owned and operated retail long-term care pharmacy and fusion pharmacies, and so have experience, been there, done that, and even at the time I was owning and operating pharmacies, realized the challenges that pharmacies faced back then and ultimately still do. And one of the areas was really around controlling costs. It's one of pharmacy's biggest lever that pharmacy has in terms of really improving profitability for the pharmacy. So with all that, SureCost was created. I founded SureCost and to provide a tool to really help pharmacies, manage their purchasing and inventory, with the existing relationships that they have, and taking a more holistic approach of the relationships they have with their primary vendor and any other vendor that they might work with. And that was really the concept of SureCost was, to really be an agent, to provide that smarter purchasing solution for the pharmacy, that they have, better insight and tools to manage the day-to-day purchasing. Obviously, that was years and years ago, kind of from the first inception. We have grown so much. We work with the big three wholesalers, the regional wholesalers, secondaries. We actually work with over 300 vendors today, and manufacturers as well. So we've done a lot. We actually work with all the pharmacy management systems, full integration, capturing dispensing data, utilization data, and reflecting your accurate cost information back into those systems to really understand your margins. And, our goal, from day one and continues to be is really to help pharmacies move from more of a reactive, person's kind of the one of those reactive types of things where, I need this, I need to get it, where do I get it from? To be proactive and really make smarter decisions with really good insights and understanding of your data and the agreements that you have. As we know, primary vendor agreements have gotten very, very complex. There's carve-outs, there's carve-ins, there's all these different pieces and really understanding where you are. We offer compliance insights to provide the pharmacy really a true picture day to day of their targets, where they're hitting those rebates or not. Can they be compliant? And then what are the options outside of being compliant? How can you save money outside your primary agreement? And we've been very successful with our pharmacies doing that. So thank you so much. Excited to be here, and it's a great pleasure to be part of this today.
Well, we love having you here, but where the rubber meets the road is the actual operator, the operation teams that are doing this every day. That's why I'm excited that Josh Miller's here with HAC Pharmacies. Josh, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to share my insights on SureCost and how it's really helped us save some of our pharmacies and stay competitive and stay profitable in the ever-changing landscape that is pharmacy right now. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. Imagine rolling up 24 pharmacies into a master report week after week, month after month, quarter after quarter, where you're having to take analytics and data and predict what you're going to need for the future to be as cost effective as possible. And the integration with your pharmacy systems and the integration with your teams and communication. And it's daunting for me to think about it, but talk to us a little bit about your operations out of Oklahoma.
Sure. We've got 24 pharmacies. We are all across Oklahoma. We've got 12 or so metro stores around Oklahoma City. And then we've got the other 12 in the rural communities. So we've got quite a bit of mix and quite a bit of different challenges between each location, between payers and doctor prescribing habits and that sort of thing. So trying to find the right mix of purchasing and finding the right product at the right price has always been kind of an area of opportunity for us, and trying to find the best place we can get those products. And looking at all the data, SureCost certainly has a plethora of reporting options that we have there that we can pull through and comb through at our convenience and utilize all of those reportings the best that we can. So.
We appreciate you being here. This is a shout out to our listeners. If you're listening to this podcast, there are going to be links in our show notes. You may even be on the SureCost website right now listening to this as we have podcasts there as well. However, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, don't worry. We're going to have links in the show notes so that you can get access to the 2025 Smarter Purchasing Report for Retail Pharmacies by SureCost. I want each of you that are listening to take a time to read through this report and realize the kind of data that is being extracted, some of the examples. And that's what we're going to be focused on today's podcast, is going through the Smarter Purchasing Report and really being able to dig in so that our listeners really understand the real world pharmacy situations that are out there. So Let's discuss this. I'm going to start with Calvin, and that is, decisions to implementation. Let's walk through the shift to SureCost, including team adoption and change management, because that's huge. I remember selling pharmacy management systems and the disruption to pharmacy operations when someone changed. I remember several pharmacy owners said the two worst things that you can do to a pharmacy operation is change pharmacy software or change your wholesaler. And I'm like, wow, I was like, I can imagine what that's like. But let's talk about that, Calvin. Decisions to implementation in getting from point A to point Z.
Yeah. No, I think that's one of the things that, is probably one of the hardest things for pharmacy to think about. I have to implement change. I don't have time for change. We have found that, our system works very much like the wholesaler systems work today. So from a learning curve, using SureCost really isn't that much different than, any of the big three, or, if you're using a regional wholesaler, what they provide as a tool. It's web-based, you can access it everywhere. We have mobile solutions. And so one of the things is, when any of our customers talk to us initially, is like really us understanding your business problems, like what you're trying to achieve, what the contracts are that you have, the relationships that you have with your vendors. And then we actually do a lot of work up front, setting and configuring our system up to behave and work the way you want it to behave and work. What are your goals? What are your objectives to actually, maximize your margins or your cost of goods or both. And then we implement that. We integrate with your systems. A lot of the heavy lifting is really done by us, and it's really just about taking some time to really understand your business and what are your pain points, and then how our system can solve, and the different ways that you can do that within our system. Us configuring that and then training your team to be able to implement that. And, most folks from the day they actually, say, hey, we want to go with SureCost to the day they go live, it's, you're looking at maybe 35, 40 days, 5 days. That's not work. But that's just timeline, to get all the integration set up and all the back end stuff. The amount of time that a pharmacy might spend, we're talking a couple hours here and there during that period of time. And then we walk you through the initial training and then handle it as you go. And once you're comfortable placing an order, it's intuitive. It's something that the system has the guardrails to help drive and be smarter around the day-to-day procurement to meet the objectives, that you're trying to achieve. And so that's our goal. And we've been very effective doing that. Once it's up and running, that's the thing that I'm very happy and pleased about, is that the adoption rate of SureCost, because it's part of the everyday process and it actually simplifies the process. We've seen where ordering times have been reduced by 2/3, so, you potentially could be saving hours a day. The purchaser, yourself, whoever's doing the buying, literally saves hours per day in their time purchasing, just because the tool helps, put all that data together and all the relationships together and really understands what you're trying to achieve and helps you make those better decisions.
So I think of implementation, regardless of how wonderful systems are, if it doesn't flow from where a pharmacy operator is into effectiveness, then it's not worth how wonderful it sounds. And so I have to bring it back to Josh. I can't imagine 24 pharmacies that you have to implement something into, having the pharmacy management systems communicating, using the SureCost system to really make sense more of your data. Talk to us about implementation and rolling out the system to your operations.
Yeah. So what we did, we have 24 stores. So we broke it down into 4 different implementations. I started off with, for me, I looked at my stores and the ones that I felt would have the best buy-in, and the ones that were already actively purchasing from outside our primary vendor and looking for those costs, are more business-minded stores. I started with them, and we did an implementation. We got on with the SureCost team and did a webinar, actually. So we had all of our managers call in and join the webinar, and they walked us through the entire process, from start to finish, how to do it, how we're going to bring in the order, how we're going to look at the order, what we're going to look at, and then we would just walk through the steps. So we got them on board, and then a week or two later, I got the next group of 6 and went down the line. We recorded the webinars so that we could go back and look at them and refresh them. So that was very helpful. So if I have a new pharmacist come on board or a new team member, whatever, we want to refresh them or go back to that. I just got a new manager last week, and I sent them the how-to from 2 years ago when we started this whole process. So it's been really helpful the way the implementation team started the process. And, we had a couple of meetings before we went live with the webinars to get all the parameters set up, to make sure that we're compliant with our primary vendor, and set all those mins and maxes and the cost savings that I wanted to achieve with the implementation. And so those were already set for each store. And so now we're actually looking at adding another store in a few weeks, and they've already set all that up. So it's just click of a switch and we're ready to go. So it's a very smooth implementation process. Now, there were some struggles getting everybody to change their mindset and do that. So So it wasn't completely a breeze, but the implementation process with SureCost certainly made it a lot more bearable, and changing our way of thinking, our way of purchasing, so that we could get to our end goal of saving that on our cost of goods. So
something that was impressive that blew me away was the savings over a 4-month period of almost $250,000. Like that's where the rubber meets the road. Kind of expand upon how that came to be, and tell me about your reaction when you saw that report.
Well, I was one of those that actively looked for the savings at the one other secondary that we were using. And we talk about in the purchasing agreement or the purchasing report about looking outside the top 200. The top 200 drugs are going to be some savings there depending on your wholesaler and your secondary purchases, but there's big opportunities that we were missing with the way we're doing it before and looking at just one vendor. There are significant savings on your lesser common or lesser used medications, in that your primary vendor may be not giving you the best deal, but you can get a better price elsewhere. And that's where the savings really adds up. And that's where I tell my teams, you've got to use SureCost every day and work it into your workflow, because those costs change and those prices fluctuate every day. Like it or not, that's how it works. And so to get the best deal, you've got to work that program or work that SureCost and order every day using SureCost. You can't just halfway commit to it. You've got to go all in. And so that's where we saw that significant savings. Had we ordered that same NDC, that same product from our primary vendor, we would have spent a lot more money. And that's where we saw our significant savings.
Calvin, this is a powerful testimony to technology that you've poured so much passion into, because you want to see our community pharmacies thrive. But this isn't unique. This is happening to everyone that is tapped into this system. Talk to us a little bit about the report and how we can share this information with other operators that are listening in.
Sure. Yeah, no, pharmacy is, very important. It's been in my life. It's, like I said, second generation pharmacist. So, it's an industry that I love and am very passionate about, and wanted to be able to provide a way to help pharmacies, continue to thrive and grow in this industry. One of the things we did with the report was we wanted to be able to be reflective and true in terms of the data. And so we've taken, we've kind of broke it down between retail and long-term care and looked at, we did throw out a couple of the one-offs, some very, very, very large or mail order type, pharmacies that use the system, just to kind of make sure that doesn't skew any of the information. So we took the average in terms of the pharmacies, and then what does their data look like? How did it compare year over year? And some of the areas that we look at, one being the biggest, the savings. And like Josh mentioned, traditionally it's over half of all savings are outside the top 200. And, it's virtually impossible, if a pharmacy's buying 2,500 unique SKUs or, 3,000, whatever it is that you're buying in unique SKUs, being able to really understand where those other potential savings are. And then how does that relate to my primary vendor agreement? Is it going to hurt my agreement or help my agreement? Is really critical. And, that was an area, of focus for our system to be able to optimize that. And the results of this has shown, there's a greater than 2% cost of goods savings to pharmacies. And this is purely this is total cost of goods. A lot of those savings are greater in the items that are outside the top 200, kind of like Josh mentioned. We've had pharmacies see, an $80, $90, $100 savings on one item. The top 200, you're going to have the penny type savings, but then those potentially might impact your compliance with the primary. So, really understanding how those impact is critical as well. The other area in the report was really kind of putting control back in the pharmacy. One of the things, with the wholesalers they have auto sub programs, right? So they're substituting product behind the scenes and understanding what does that cost me? We found that about 1% of all items ordered are substituted, through the primary. And so of that, some cases it has impacted the pharmacy significantly. It could be, from an annual standpoint, could be, $30,000. Again, those tend to be outliers. The actual dollar impact either could be savings based on, subbing you to a more appropriate product, or it could be, costing, going to something that's not as cost effective. But having that transparency, being able to see it, I'm ordering a Miprazole 20. This is the NDC I want because I'm reimbursed better on that NDC. And if it's subbed outside, for me, you lose that control, and you also lose that visibility of really understanding what your costs are. So one of the areas, like I said, we want to be able to do is put the control back in pharmacy so you can control what is the cost of changing a drug for you, and let SureCost decide that for, you as a pharmacy. And the wholesaler either fills it or doesn't, and you have that option to look either is there someone else that has that product, or you stay compliant with your primary on that. So, that was one of the areas that, we've seen continued substitution there on the back end and opportunity around that. Out of stocks, as we know, are one of the biggest challenges for pharmacy, as that, items, and it's interesting that 75-80% of those items are generic that, are not being able to be filled. And, that leads to potentially, more time for the pharmacy to try to figure out where they're going to get that product, and who carries that product. And it also leads to, poor patient care potentially. You don't have that drug at the time you need it when that patient comes in, and either A, they go without that med, or B, they might, change to a different pharmacy to get that med. So making sure that you have a process to have those products in stock are really important. And one of the things we saw again in this report was our system tracks reorders. So this would be like if I were to order, drug A and it's not in stock and I have to reorder it, our system will track that reorder event. We have seen that was over 2.5%. So this 3 years ago, that number was over 2.5% because of, items not being in stock. We have seen that surprisingly come down. However, we were able to correlate and determine that came, still it's 1%, which is still significant. But that it came down because our system provides real-time availability. So we show, hey, here are the vendors that you have, here's your primary, and if you have secondaries, these are the items that are in stock, and we have, that real-time availability to be able to show that. So the pharmacies are actually preempting, meaning that they're actually ordering what they know they can get. And they're not waiting for an item to be not filled by the wholesaler and then having to scramble to find, an alternative item. So those are some of the big things in the report that we found. We also do compliance to your GPO. So if you're using a group purchasing organization for your contracts, our system actually monitors and does compliance related to that, and shows that, these are areas where the contract wasn't honored. And, in my life of pharmacy, again, I've been doing this, my life, I've been doing this I won't show my age, but it's been, almost 40 years, in the business. There has always been problems with that in terms of, contract compliance or contract loads. And our system identifies those real time, and it also identifies it as you're being invoiced. So you get information back that you're able to get back to the wholesaler to say, hey, this contract wasn't loaded. And, providing that feedback back to them is really also very important. The last thing was around the ability for matching to received items. And so, this is another area where I think, SureCost has provided huge benefit with DSCSA coming and being compliant around DSCSA, and then also just auditing, doing a 3-way invoice match to the things you're actually being invoiced for. Having a system that does it all seamlessly, through a mobile solution that you're scanning an item and you're able to verify is it saves a ton of time, and you're cross-checking against the DSCSA, you're cross-checking against your invoice. There we found, again, additional costs that were being charged that product wasn't received on. So, again, bringing visibility about that is really an important piece as well to managing your business effectively.
I appreciate that. And, once again, I want to bring Josh's comment, and then Josh, just to follow up, you said that you brought your managers together, you brought people in your team together you're leading this initiative, when you start talking about implementing other pieces of software or something in your operations or your workflow, I guarantee there were pharmacy managers out there were like, oh my gosh, what is Josh doing? I want to kill him. Like, oh my gosh, another thing I have to do. So change management and change mindset, if it's not put into place by the leader and leadership and the positivity and the assurance and the confidence, regardless of how wonderful the system is, it's very hard to get in operations to make that shift. So talk to us about a little bit about that change management and how important mindset is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did have some pushback, but that's why as the leader of these 24 stores, I had to surround myself with people who understood the struggle. They saw the problem and they saw what they were having to do. And then I provided this solution that SureCost had and said, look how much easier it's going to be. And with that, rallying those troops and getting those people on board, and then that opens up the network of people who they can reach out to if they don't want to come directly to me or they don't want to reach out to SureCost. But building your support system from the top down and from the beginning, if I had gone with some people who were resistant and weren't doing it and didn't buy in, they didn't see the process, that's not going to help us overall. So I really had to strategically look and see who could help us with that. And finding those people within your organization or within even your pharmacy. From the beginning, I told them this was not a pharmacy manager job. This was not something just the pharmacy manager had to do. In fact, we needed to find a champion within our stores to take on this project because it can be and should be a little bit of a time consuming process, because we want to find the best product, the right deal, the one that we're looking for, and not just halfway do it. You got to go all the way in so that you can really maximize those savings. So finding that person within your organization, within your store, to really champion this project is important. So if you're a pharmacy owner and you've got a lead tech who, that's their thing is numbers, their thing is inventory control, put them in charge of that, give them that ownership. I actually had one store manager who was getting a little frustrated with the process, a little bogged down because he was having too much to do, he felt. And he told me, I taught my technicians and it's been a lot better. So, surprisingly, if we just take a little bit of that ownership away and give it to someone else, champion them, empower them to do this task and own this project, they definitely can thrive and make your business successful. So I think part of being a leader and a manager or owner is to delegate those tasks to the right people and find those people within your organization that can help you champion. And in the long run, we all win if we can delegate and find people that will actually help us grow and adapt to the market that we're in. Because, I was honest with him. If we don't do something, we're not going to be here long term with all the DIRs and all the under reimbursements. If we don't do something, we're going to have to just close up shop. So this was our solution, and it's been successful for us. But finding those people to help come alongside you and work successfully together is key.
Yeah, Josh, you said something pretty important, though. It's, when I think of the balance between time and money, it's time that is an issue more for me. I just got done building a brand new studio, and that disruption to my time when I'm trying to serve my clients and follow up and schedule things, it was crazy. So someone's listening right now, they're curious about SureCost, pharmacy operator, pharmacy owner, and they're like, I just don't have the time. Talk to us a little bit about that too.
Well, first, I would say, if you want to continue operating, you're going to need to find some time. And what that looks like is different for everybody. But if we're going to be here long term, we're going to have to make some hard changes. We evaluate what we're spending our time on and make sure that we're maximizing that time. And so I felt prior to the SureCost, we were spending a lot of time matching NDC to primary versus secondary and going down the list. We got to the point where we had, 20, 25 drugs that we always ordered from secondary because we knew they were cheaper. But with SureCost, you load your order in there, you either, however you do it, however it transfers over from your operating system, or you manually enter into SureCost, it's all there for you. The information is there to run with. The availability of the drugs, the cost savings, all of that's right in front of your face at your fingertips. So a small investment of time with the implementation and learning the new process in the long term is going to save you time and then ultimately money too. So it may seem daunting task or time consuming at first, and it is. There's any change, anything worth doing is going to cost a little bit of time and effort, but in the long run, it's going to be worth it, in my opinion. So it's worth investing a little bit of time, but don't do it alone. That's what I've told my managers. We're here to help. Surround yourself with people that can help you, and don't do it yourself. Don't do it all yourself, and find someone to help you to get that process done.
Okay. Calvin, the difference between Josh and operators out there that are listening that have, changed their pharmacy system or changed the wholesaler, like I said, that disruption, build a new podcast studio. That's a disruption. If SureCost really have helped me, I would have much appreciated it. But you've seen things with client after client after client. So you're starting to hone in on a blueprint to make that process more efficient. So talk to us about that change management and implementing SureCost because of how many times you've done it with pharmacy operators throughout the nation.
Yeah, I mean, Josh touched on a couple of the key things. Our company wants to really understand pharmacy and what pharmacy's challenges are, and so our implementation team and a lot of the support team are pharmacy technicians, and we have other pharmacists on staff. Actually, there are several that actually have used SureCost in their prior employment as well. So they're not just they were a user of SureCost, so they kind of understood. They were, in some cases, that customer that had to onboard SureCost, so they understand that process. So I think that first piece is really understanding what pharmacy has to deal with in terms of limited time and the challenges you have. You're not making money unless you're filling prescriptions, and you have to get off that hamster wheel, like Josh was saying, to really take that time to invest to make a change. But that's going to pay huge dividends back, by doing that. And as a company, we're there to support. But the thing I've noticed in terms of really truly successful implementations was exactly what Josh said. Really finding those folks that embrace change, that really see the value of change, understand the data. One of the things that SureCost does that I think once you get the program up and running is that it actually standardizes everything. You talked about switching wholesalers. Well, now all that's agnostic. The relationship you have is really SureCost, and you don't really need to worry about, we put this vendor on, how do we work with XYZ vendor, because it's going to be the same, and your process for receiving, your process for ordering, all that functionality may be slightly different of what you did before, but once you do it, it's going to be the same for everything. So the adoption rate and utilization is very, very high once you get those processes up and running, because now that no matter who comes on your organization, it's the same way of doing it, and you have the guardrails already set up, and it's not having to rely on individuals to be like, oh, right, well, this drug we have to buy from the XYZ vendor, and we buy X amount, blah blah blah. It's not pharmacy, I guess, or purchasing in general tends to be a knowledge base or habitual type of thing, so putting a system in that actually now is real time and making those decisions based on, again, what you want as goals is going to save a huge amount of time. But yeah, alignment of folks really understanding and having your teams understand what you're trying to do and the benefits to your business, and how this is going to benefit the business. So they are able to kind of see the end goal and not get caught up in, well, this is different, and this button's not where I like it, whatever. Everyone has their own interpretation of what's good or not good, and until people get used to it, and they get used to it, this is the new norm. And the one thing I am very proud of our team and our product is that our relationships with our customers are partnerships. Like we look at our customers as true partners, and we're here to work with you together. And we have, I guess the testament to that is we actually have customers that we've had from day one. When we first started SureCost, some of the retail pharmacies and even long-term care pharmacies that we've had back at when you talked, in 2005, 2006, 2007, are still our customers today. So we're very proud of that, and continue to do that.
So I'm listening. I'm an operator. I'm a pharmacy owner. One of the hardest things to do is to take a first step. Calvin, kind of share with those listeners right now, what is that first step? What should I be doing as an operator to evaluate is SureCost the right system for me?
Yeah, I think obviously the biggest is really to you can go to SureCost.com, www.surecost.com. There is a book a demo link, you can up on the upper right corner, click that. Someone at our company is going to reach out to you, set up a time that's convenient to you to demo. I think the first step is really seeing the product and understanding how SureCost works and how it fits. One of the things that SureCost is that it's not just a shopping tool, but it is a process tool. Like, we are there to help the whole procurement process. You manage your whole supply chain. That includes perpetual inventory, physical inventories. I mentioned DSCSA. We're using AI actively right now to help with drug shortages and predictability around drug shortages. So we're here, in the now in terms of being able to help solve problems, but we're also, in the future, building tools to really help provide, and using AI to help provide better predictive analysis, with regard to your contracts, with your purchasing patterns, with inventory, and with drug shortages. So, the first step is really taking that 15 minutes, 30 minutes to do a demo and kind of looking at SureCost and what it offers. And then, from there, having a discussion with our team and us talking about implementation and how we can roll it out for you.
So there's Calvin's description of first steps, and we understand it from his perspective. But Josh, you're the guy that is the real deal. So, kind of describe to the listeners right now, what's your message to other pharmacy leaders, navigating this 2025 chaos of thriving as a pharmacy operator?
Yeah. Do it. Just rip the Band-Aid off, make the change, and go for it. I mean, if you're not already ordering from a secondary or multiple secondaries, you're missing out on an opportunity there. If you're relying solely on your primary vendor, then you are missing opportunity there. So utilize SureCost. For me and my experience with SureCost, the ordering process and the way you look at your order and build your order is virtually the same as a primary vendor or any other secondary supplier. Type in your NDC, it pulls up all your different options. I would say the one problem we have found is sometimes the products are too cheap. We have to order more to get to that minimum. And so that's not a problem per se. But looking at the ordering processes, it's so doable and so easy. You just got to get off your tush and get it done. It's not a matter of if I need to do it, it's when. And in my opinion, in this ever-changing landscape of 2025 pharmacy, you've got to do something. And Calvin touched on it earlier, there's only so many controllables that we can control in the pharmacy industry. Labor and cost of goods. The contracting is kind of out of our hands. Reimbursements are certainly out of our hands. So what we can control is what we can control, and that's the cost. And so if you're not looking at controlling your cost, you need to. And so get started. SureCost will make it painless as possible. Change is always hard, but it's necessary, and you just got to do it. Just get going.
Well, I thank you for that. And Calvin, thank you so much for being part of this. I am super stoked and excited. I'm headed to Nashville in November 13th through 14th we're going to be embracing pharmacy evolution with the Insights 2025. SureCost Insights 2025 is an event to bring together operators, pharmacy owners, administrators, pharmacy technicians that are dialed in to really come together and to discuss what does the future of pharmacy look like, and embracing the evolution of the future of pharmacy. This is an important event. Pharmacy Podcast Network will be covering this event. I'm excited to be a part of it. Calvin, I want to thank you and your team for supporting this organization and pharmacy owners through this organization. Tell me what you're excited about, Calvin, with SureCost Insights 2025.
I mean, I'm super excited just to have everyone together. I think, having all the folks, in pharmacy that are, actively involved in purchasing, I think it's going to be really powerful to have everyone together sharing ideas. We have some exciting things. We have industry leaders. We have discussions around our roadmap, where we're going. We'll be talking about drug shortages, the use of AI within our platform, and kind of the future vision of where we see, SureCost going, and really, purchasing in general, where we're going and trends around that. So super excited about the event, and, hoping to see as many people as we can there.
Absolutely. Please head on over to SureCost.com. Once again, that's SureCost.com. You're going to be able to download the report that we were talking about. You're going to be able to register for the SureCost Insights 2025 event. If you have any questions, please reach out to the SureCost team. Reach out to Pharmacy Podcast Network. We're part of this. We're going to be there. We're going to be doing interviews, listening to pharmacy owners' stories, and really helping to navigate what does the future of pharmacy look like. And what a great time to have this event on the eve of 2025, going into a brand new year and starting new, thriving, and being more profitable. I want to thank Josh Miller especially for being part of this conversation. Josh, this has been a wonderful conversation, and thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Calvin, you and your team are exceptional. I love being part of this. I've loved working with you guys for years now. Starting to make me feel old when I can say, 12, 15 years ago. But thank you so much for being part of this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Todd. Really enjoyed the time today. So appreciate it. And all the work that you've done for pharmacy has been great. So thank you.
You were listening to the Future of Pharmacy presentation and blueprint to being a thriving operations out there, brought to you by SureCost. At this event, we'll be revealing the SureCast podcast, which I'm so excited to be a part of. If, once again, any questions, please go to SureCost.com. We thank you for listening.